You know, almost everything you own, your phone, your shoes, the coffee you had this morning, probably took a very long trip across an ocean to get to you. And that invisible industry, global shipping, it's basically the lifeblood of our entire economy. But right now, that whole system, well, it's going through not one, but two massive revolutions at the exact same time.
I mean, just take a second to look at the sheer scale of this. These aren't just ships, right? They're practically floating cities of commerce crisscrossing the globe 24/7. This is the circulatory system of our modern world, the thing that connects a factory on one side of the planet to a store and to you on the other.
And here's the catch. That vital system is under enormous strain. It's getting squeezed from two completely different directions at once, and it's being forced to totally reinvent itself, not just on a global scale, but on a super tight schedule.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll get a handle on just how big this industry is and the huge challenges it's up against. Then we'll jump into the two big solutions everyone's talking about, the green revolution and the smart upgrade. We'll even look at China's pretty ambitious plan to see how this works in the real world. And finally, we'll figure out what this all means for that little box that shows up on your doorstep.
Okay, first up, let's really wrap our heads around just how essential shipping is to, well, pretty much everything.
To try and put this into perspective, get this. China's ports, by themselves, handled 14.6 billion tons of cargo in just 1 year. That number is so huge, it's almost impossible to even imagine. We're not just talking about a big industry. This is a planetary-scale conveyor belt for everything we buy and use.
Okay, so that brings us to the core of the problem. This massive, massive system is getting hit by what you could call a perfect storm of economic chaos and environmental pressure. So on one side, you've got just crazy market volatility. You know, after all this supply chain madness recently, a lot of retailers are now kind of gun-shy. They're keeping their inventories lean, which makes demand for shipping incredibly unpredictable. And then, on the other side, you've got the huge environmental problem. Shipping is a massive polluter, and the pressure from regulators and the public to clean up its act is getting more intense every single day.
This image of a tightrope walker is just the perfect metaphor for what's going on. And this quote from Ted Chen, an industry expert, really nails it. He says, "It doesn't matter if there are too many ships or not enough ships. Either way, the whole industry is facing these huge risks of instability." That's the economic reality that's forcing so much change so fast.
So, with that in mind, let's look at the first of these massive transformations, the big push to go green.
Okay, the key thing to understand here is the net zero framework from the International Maritime Organization, or IMO. This isn't just a friendly suggestion. Think of it as a global mandate, a rule book for the entire industry, telling them they have to slash their emissions and hit net zero around the year 2050. This one policy is basically forcing a complete rethink of the modern container ship, a design that's been the king of the seas for more than 50 years.
And believe me, these goals are not vague. The IMO has laid out a crystal clear and pretty aggressive timeline with hard targets. We're talking a 4% cut by 2028, doubling to 8% just 2 years after that, and then jumping all the way to a 30% reduction by 2035. The pressure is on, and the clock is definitely ticking.
And this timeline just shows you how fast it's all happening. This isn't some problem for the distant future. I mean, starting in March 2026, boom, stricter limits in the Arctic. Then in 2027, new fuel rules kick in for everyone, everywhere. By October of that same year, sensitive areas like the Mediterranean get extra layers of rules. The regulatory net is just getting tighter and tighter.
So, at the exact same time as this huge green revolution is underway, there's a second, equally powerful transformation happening, the big tech upgrade. For decades, ports have been a world of paperwork, manual everything, and constant delays. The vision for the smart port is the total opposite of that. We're talking about AI optimizing every single move, automated cranes working around the clock, and secure digital systems like blockchain tracking the whole process. It's all about replacing stacks of paper and frustrating delays with pure, instant data.
And listen, this isn't science fiction. These are specific goals pulled from China's national strategy. They literally use the term wisdom brain to describe a central AI for their ports. And they're pushing 5G and the Internet of Things to connect every ship, crane, and container. The end goal here is total, seamless efficiency.
So, how does all this theory actually get put into practice? Well, let's take a look at the blueprint from the world's biggest player in shipping, China.
Their plan to go green is really methodical. First, they're retrofitting the ships they already have. At the same time, they're innovating like crazy, fast-tracking ships that run on new fuels like LNG, and eventually electric and hydrogen power. And, maybe most importantly, they're building the infrastructure, all the charging stations and fuel networks that those new ships will need to actually work.
A really key part of both the smart and green strategy is integration. The goal is to dramatically boost the amount of cargo that moves seamlessly from a ship right onto a train, and they're targeting a 15% growth rate every single year. It's all about making the entire chain more efficient by getting containers off of trucks and onto rails.
So we've gone through all these massive industrial and tech shifts. Let's bring it all back home. Why does any of this actually matter to you?
The one date you should really remember here is 2035. That is the deadline for getting most of this transformation done. Just think about that for a second. In about a decade, the entire global system that delivers nearly everything you own is scheduled to be fundamentally rebuilt. Greener, smarter, more efficient. That timeline isn't just ambitious, it's absolutely revolutionary.
So the next time you click Buy Now on something, just remember that that package is a tiny piece of this enormous global experiment, and the question we're all left with is a big one. Will all this new tech and all these new rules actually create a stronger, more resilient system, or are we just trading one set of complex problems for a whole new one?